Hey, fitness fans, welcome back. It's Eric Malzone with the Future of Fitness podcast, and this is episode number 22. And I get to talk to Shaun Zetlin. So, Shaun, in the purest form, is a fitness entrepreneur. He has run his own personal training business in New York City for nearly 15 years. He's the author of the acclaimed Pushup progression book series. It's been featured on Discovery Channel, Health Magazine, and a bunch of other outlets as well. He has really carved out his niche, for sure. He's mastered the art of the push-up and how to teach it and explaining all the benefits of this simple and beautiful movement. And he's also been featured in books, magazines, television, radio, things like Men's Fitness, Huffington Post, Fitness Professional Online, Conde Nast, Livestrong, Stack, you name it. He's been all over the place and he's very active. And when you hear him talk, you'll probably be like me and be like, I want this guy to train me. He's like most great trainers. He has an ability to take the emotional and life aspects of a client and see how it intertwines with what goes on in the gym and the training. So a lot of great tidbits in here, and I hope you really enjoyed it because I really enjoyed talking to him. So before we get to it, let's talk about our sponsor, which is the Fitness Marketing Alliance. Yes, full stack digital marketing agency experience is now available to just the fitness industry. So what does that mean? It is a holistic look at digital marketing, from search engine optimization to email marketing to social media to content marketing to pay-per-click advertising on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google AdWords, you name it. It's the ability to take an overall strategy and implement the tactics, which is something that a lot of people in the industry are missing. So whether you are a gym owner who is looking to take it to the next level, if you are a fitness professional who now has an online service that you want to scale massively, or you are a larger organization who needs to get the word out, that's us. We can help you out. So go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com, schedule a free consultation, and we'll see what we can do for you. So now on to the show, episode number 22, Shaun Zetlin. Hey everybody, this is Eric with the Fitness Marketing Alliance, and today I'm talking to Shaun Zetlin, and we're going to get into his story. But Shaun, thank you for coming on. You've been referred to me by several people, and I'm really excited. We got to catch up a little bit before, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Super honored to be here, Eric. Thank you so much for having me already.
Cool. Tell us your fitness story. What has led you up to this point?
Yeah. So my journey begins as a young child. My father was a professional bodybuilder. And so growing up, I got to see him look like He-Man. And I did not look like He-Man and wanted to look like him, of course, as sons would emulate their fathers. And we were fortunate enough to have sort of this, awesome gym in the basement growing up. And I watched my dad work out. And that kind of was the driving force for me to want to be in fitness. Like so many other fitness professionals, I had some, minor traumas where I was, really bad at sports. I had really bad motor skills growing up. I was born with club feet, just like Tom Brady for those in the Boston area. So I had some things to overcome. So I think coupled with that stuff, and then watching my father, it really was no doubt that the fitness world was going to be destined for me. So that all happened. And as I grew up and followed my father, he was sort of like a street mechanic, as he likes to say, meaning that he knew all the basics. He knew the deadlift, he knew the squat, he knew the push-up, but basically he didn't know all these other instruments to work out. And so from there, in college, I started to get even more educated, if you will. And that led me to New York, where I am now.
So where did you grow up? What part?
So I grew up in northern Delaware, which is about 20 minutes south of Philadelphia. Okay. And it is a state. We are the first state, I'm proud to say. People are like, is that Maryland? I'm like, no, that is actually Delaware. It's a real state. And it was a great place to grow up. I had awesome memories there. And at the time I graduated, went to University of Delaware. And at the time upon graduation, my brother was already in New York and he was looking for a roommate and he was in law school. So it was perfect. And my brother and I are best friends. So all the stores sort of aligned, if you will. And I originally came to New York. I knew I wanted to do something with fitness, but I also have this writing background. I also have an acting background. So I thought I'd sort of try to combine all three if possible. And I was helping meeting a buddy of mine at the local gym where I live here in Brooklyn Heights, and just showing him a few things. And I wasn't even certified at this point. I just had moved to New York, and again, just knew the basics from my dad had taught me. And the fitness manager happened to see me there. And long story short, he was like, oh, you seem to know what you're doing. I was like, well, to be honest, I'm not really certified. I'm just, showing my buddy what I know from my father showed me. And he's like, oh, you interested in a job? And I thought, well, if I'm going to do the writing thing, if I'm going to do the acting thing, it's a little less cliche to be a personal trainer as opposed to a waiter. So maybe I'll try to do both if I can. And so I sort of was juggling both for maybe about 3.5 years. I mean, almost 4 years, actually. So it was a trial to see which direction my life would take me. But in the end, acting was great and writing is absolutely fantastic as well. And I still do write, but personal training and fitness was the world for me.
Have those skills from acting translated into training people at all?
Oh my God, absolutely. It's funny. I shout out to Idea Fitness because I just read an article from them about this and with Ryan Halverson. And so the truth is that yes, and it's not what people may think, because it becomes super genuine when you're dealing with all these different people. I mean, of course you have to care, and if you don't care, then you need to leave the industry. Of course, that goes without saying. But dealing with certain clients, especially here in the New York area, you have one client who's the, maybe type A Wall Street guy, and then you may have somebody who's the stay-at-home housewife who's shy. And so for me, the acting background really helped me to relate to different types of people. And I have felt if you make a client feel super comfortable, yes, you could be the most knowledgeable personal trainer in the world. You could absolutely know how the body works. But if your client is not comfortable with you, you're not going to get very far. And so my acting background has helped me sort of relate to different personalities, whether they're type B or whether they're type B. And that's been very helpful into kind of getting to their why and breaking down layers and barriers and having a more emotional response with the client.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, there's so much focus in the fitness industry on the knowledge that you have as a trainer, right? The physiology, anatomy, kinesiology, all those things. But
yeah,
I can't put a percentage on it, but I'm going to say that's like 20% of what we do as trainers on a day-to-day basis. Mostly it's interpersonal relationships. It's showing that we care. It's, it's all those little intangible things that go into getting something out of people and then giving it back. So that's interesting. Everyone has a diverse background. So I'm going to ask you a question because to most people, this is going to sound like a really simple question, but when I ask you, it's going to be a very in-depth question. Tell me about the push-up.
Okay. Okay. It's a great question. So for me, the push-up was one of those exercises growing up that was very difficult. And I didn't know what the neutral spine was. I mean, I had a very fine 7th grade, high school and all these different teachers growing up who were great at what they did, but I don't think they taught the push-up correctly. And I struggled with it. And so being a personal trainer and starting off at like one of those big box gyms, and now I'm fortunate enough to run my own company here in New York. But before then, sort of being in the gym atmosphere and the lifestyle and seeing the push-up along with the squat and other exercises performed correctly, I thought, okay, I really want to reinvent this. I mean, a personal hero of mine is Jack LaLanne, and his fingertip push-ups are incredible. So I started basically researching the push-up, understanding the science even more, and then basically reinventing it and using the core as a driving force, and not just the lower back and the stomach muscles. I mean, the entire spine. And so for me, it became almost very personal. This is an exercise that I struggled with when I was 13 and 14, but now I have this opportunity to basically reinvent it and make it my own, and not only help myself, but help all these other people. And then so from there, it kind of led to writing a few articles and contributing to different websites, to me realizing I have so much to say about the push-up, and I can't just say it in 500 words. So that led to basically a push-up book series, which led to my mentor as well, Doug Holt, saying, listen, this is not only great for your clients and for the everyday man and woman, but this is great for other personal trainers and other physical therapists to get their books on, get their hands on. And so fortunate enough to have a continuing education source with ISSA and with National Academy of Sports Medicine to educate other personal trainers so they can take my course and earn credits for learning the push-up, but learning it the correct way, learning how to progress it the correct way. So I feel very fortunate these days, and I've sort of made it my own. So it started off as a personal journey, and now it's led to this bigger than life experience that I never thought would be possible.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I'll just personal anecdotes and all that. My first coaching opportunity to get in front of people or train people was at Jack LaLanne's grand
Oh, it's
Chris
awesome.
Lane's gym in San Francisco. So, and he showed up. Jack Lane showed up for the grand opening, and
Amazing.
it was awesome.
Legend.
And, yeah, total legend. And
Yeah.
speaking of another legend, was Dan John. And when I
Yeah.
did his, he was the first one who I've been doing push-ups all my life, from every sport I ever played to just general fitness. And he was the first one who looked like, he took 2 looks at my push-up. He's like, that's bad. 3 things, right? Maybe spread my fingers out, maybe keep this down, keep the elbows in tight, all these things. And I was like, there's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's really cool. I suggest people go check out what you're doing with that. So
thank you, man. Appreciate it.
From now we're talking about, the X's and O's of coaching, from how to do a push-up properly, but how is that expanding into personal relationships with people, the emotional aspect of what you do with coaching and all of that?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. This is something I'm really passionate about these days. And so especially what's going on in the world, and not to dive deep into that realm, but everybody has some sort of trauma. I mean, everybody's battling something. I mean, I always say to everybody, including my clients, it doesn't cost anything to be nice to people. And I feel very honored that when a client says to me, you're the best part of my day, my day is very stressful, and they list the things that makes them stressful, to me, that's very sad. And so I want to challenge people to, whatever it is bothering them emotionally, to let it out physically, because I like to always think that if the mind and the body are not connected, you're not going to go very far. And the mind always gives up way before the body does. So when we're all making fitness goals, let's say, it's very important to commit emotionally first. And so whether it's you want to gain 5 pounds or lose 5 pounds, want to gain 5 pounds of muscle, obviously, it doesn't matter. You have to commit emotionally first. And so with the push-up, it's automatically an icon of strength. Right? When we think of the push-up, we think of Jack LaLanne, like we mentioned. We think of Rocky, right? I mean, it's a symbol. And you think about the act of the actual push-up, right? You're in that push-up position. You're pushing your body away from the floor. And so if you can connect to the trauma that's upsetting you, and it doesn't have to be anything that's super wild. It could be, of course, but it could just be the day-to-day stresses as well. But if you can connect to your mind before you even lower yourself down, and before you even push yourself up, the act of pushing yourself up, you're pushing down your problems. It doesn't mean you're getting rid of them. It doesn't mean that you're not allowing them to flow through you, but you're getting into control now. You're obtaining the control of the problem. You're regaining that power, if you will, because the push-up, again, is such a powerful movement. And so as you lower down, I always tell clients, especially recently, think about the trauma that's upsetting you. Think about the stresses that's upsetting you. Go down. You pause at the very bottom. We can go into the mechanics later of everything about elbow positioning and spine positioning. But think about the problem, and then you're pushing away. You're pushing that problem down. You're pushing that problem down. You're not ready. You're not getting rid of it, and you're not forgetting about it. But you're regaining the control of the problem. And again, the problem could be stresses, like I keep mentioning, or everyday trauma or past trauma, whatever it is. But that emotional connection is so important. It will only empower you more. And I think a lot of times, especially now in the news, we don't want to talk about certain things, whether it's, female equality or whatever it is. I don't want to get super political, but you know what I'm sort of going with here. And I think it's very important to not run away from these problems, but to stand tall and to confront them and to realize that you can overcome them.
Oh, it's incredible. Can you give us, do you have, maybe an anonymous, example that you can use of how you've taken that mindset and put it into who you're coaching, who you're training?
Yeah. So without saying names, I think, especially because it's in the news lately with female equality, when we think of something like the push-up, we think of men, right? I mean, not the stereotype, of course, but a lot of people think about, again, Rocky, we're not talking about females here, or we're talking about Jack LaLanne, that obviously not female. But when I think about my female clients versus my male clients, and I say this jokingly, but also there's a lot of truth, they could certainly give my male clients a run for their money. But at the same time, they want to be just as strong. This idea of feeling strong, especially for a female, whether it's wanting to protect yourself physically or emotionally, it could be from a man, it could be from another female, of course. But the idea of feeling strong is so empowering for everyone. And I have one particular female that I just adore, that I've been so honored to train for so many years now. And she's opened up and she's talked about her trauma when it's come to men. And so the idea of wanting to feel strong, the idea of wanting to be able to protect herself. And so what better exercise to get her strong would be the push-up, because as we know, it works so many other muscle groups. But again, the idea of pushing your problem down, confronting your problem, then rising up from that problem, right? Right. So for her, it's been such an amazing story. We started off where she could barely do one push-up, and I don't necessarily start my clients on the pull push-up to the knees. I don't believe in girl push-ups. I even hate that term. Now that I'm a proud father of a daughter, I'm even more of a feminist than ever could be. But I start them basically with a shoulder plank, just to develop proper core muscles, core stabilization muscles, and then of course we get into the core movement muscles, but transverse abdominis and so forth, and internal obliques. But for this particular client, she could only do barely one. I mean, it wasn't even one. It was maybe moving halfway down, if that. And then the core sort of suffered. The spine wasn't correct. Now, recently, she's done 45 push-ups. It's been unbelievable. And yes, we've been working together for some time. It certainly didn't happen overnight, but the satisfaction, the joy is certainly why you wake up in the morning to see such a thing. And now she feels so empowered. Now she walks with incredible confidence. Now she walks with incredible posture, which is another awesome thing that push-ups provide. And she's in control, which is the main thing. With trauma, I always like to talk about, you don't get rid of trauma, you lower the volume, so to speak, on trauma, right? Whether it's been super severe or not. But for this particular client, we don't expect the trauma to fully go away. But what we the goal is to limit it, right? To not have it so loud in her ear. She's in control now, and she's done things physically that she never thought possible. And of course, we all know that translates into this emotional empowerment where, in every aspect of her life. So that in itself is such a great story.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Shaun. I think, when you talk about trauma or grief and all these things that happen in people's lives, because it touches on everybody. If it hasn't touched you yet, it will.
Yeah.
It's going to come down. And, it's like background noise. It's just always there, right?
Yeah.
We continually, do the stuff to turn down the volume. And I think, nowadays, mindfulness is such a big topic, right? And everyone talk about meditation. You want to talk about this, but you don't have to sit there in this formal pose and meditate and try to think of nothing, which is impossible, by the way. And you can do, physical movement can be your meditation. That can be your mindfulness. And
absolutely.
For me, it is personally. I know if if I need to shift my mentality or my mindset, quick 20-minute run or, do some push-ups, some sit-ups, something like that. So it's really a cool aspect that I think as a trainer, if you're not paying attention to that with your clients, you're missing a whole opportunity, a huge opportunity to help people. And I know one of the reasons I love talking to fitness pros is because that's what they love to do, is just help people.
Right.
So let me shift a little bit. You're everywhere, right? Like you've written multiple books, you've contributed to multiple books, you contribute to magazines, online magazines, shows. How do you do it? How do you do all of it? Like, what does your average day look like?
Yeah.
How do you get all this done?
Well, you're so kind to say. I mean, it's definitely more of a challenge now that I'm a father. Certainly blessed to be one. New dad, little baby girl who's 6 weeks old. But before that, I have sort of this, and I joke about it, I have sort of this Alexander Hamilton mentality that's, very, very popular these days, the musical, which is basically, it's this driving force. It's the idea of wanting to just basically challenge myself and wanting to continuously get better. And so Doug Holt and I always sort of joke about this of, we setting these goals and try to basically, get them done with the next day, which is not always possible, of course. But I think for me, it's only competing with myself and nobody else, right? So what I like to tend to say that I'm very organized, and I kind of go old school with this. So yes, thankfully, I'm talking to you on a MacBook, and I actually have an iPhone, of course, but I have this journal where I literally write things down, and it's what an old concept, right? But for me, it's very helpful. And the idea of like crossing off something on this list is the satisfaction I get is incredible. So I make a goal list, and I break it down month to month, and I have a month-to-month goal list, and I have a 6-month, and I have a 12-month. So basically where I like to see myself in a year. And I break it down in different categories, right? So it could be an article, it could be a book, it could be a TV show or internet show or a podcast such as this. And then kind of saying to myself, okay, like then, what are the most important things of this? What am I trying to reach? Like, who am I trying to reach? What is the underlying message of it all? And I think now that I'm sort of into shifting more into emotional fitness, of course, that's a passion of mine. Childhood obesity is a passion of mine. But I want to look back, when my grandfather just passed away. He was 99 years old.
Wow.
And that was just amazing. And we were so hoping he'd make it to 100, but at 99, he had his mind to the very end. And I want to think of myself, hopefully I can be in my 90s or even 100, but I want to think back that I did the most I could in this life. I want to think of it as I didn't waste life. In other words, I want to think of it as I really want to leave a legacy. And that's sort of the Hamilton connection comes into play, where it's not only just kind of doing, X, Y, and Z throughout the day. I want to leave a legacy of, I helped this person, I helped that person. And it's, not even, yes, fame is great and finances and money is fantastic, but it's not about that. It's about, and it's going to sound cliche, but it's God's honest truth in my soul. It's about reaching as many people as I can to helping them, because I know what it's like to be picked last in gym class. I know what it's like to have the club feet, when you feel strong, you feel empowered, and when I tell my story, my clients are like, oh, not you, like, come on, that happened to you, please. But I'm like, no, it did happen to me. And I feel like I feel very blessed to live a fantastic life in New York. Yes, I made that life for myself. Nobody gave it to me. I had to create this life for me, but I want to be able to give back that way. And so if I had that opportunity to reach all these people through a book or through a magazine or a podcast or internet TV shows such as this, then I know I did something right. And so to tie it back into acting, that feeling that I got when I was on stage and I was proving to myself that I could do it, but more importantly, I got the applause of someone I didn't know. That's great. But now I get the applause of somebody I do know. And that's even better. So that's, again, validation of why I'm so happy I made the shift.
Awesome. That's really interesting. And when you look at like where you want to be in a year, is there any things that you like, do you boil it down to like simple actions that if you do on a daily or weekly basis that will get you there? And if you do, which I'm guessing you do,
yes.
What are they?
Yeah, the biggest tool for me is I go back to the journaling. It's, especially, it doesn't matter if you live in New York City or wherever you live. Everybody has stresses. Everybody has things they need to do, and distractions are everywhere. It's easy to have a lazy day. It's easy for everyday life to get distracting. But for me, journaling really keeps me honest, Eric. It really keeps me honest of my goals. And so, if there's an issue like you alluded to earlier, going for a run or doing push-ups, the act of moving is very helpful. But if working out sometimes isn't enough, or I can't work out depending on the day, then the journaling really keeps me honest of my goals. And as I said earlier, making sure that I commit myself, because it's a commitment for me as well. And I don't want to let anybody down either. And so I want to make sure that, okay, so I got an email from somebody who, one of the best compliments I've ever gotten was from my second book, the Pushup Progression Series second book, a pastor who lives in a rural community where he can't get to a gym. He's got multiple children. His life is very stressful. He basically said to me, this is an opportunity for me to bond with one of my sons. This is an opportunity for me because I can't go to the gym. My son needs to work out. He needs to exercise. We know about the obesity epidemic in children. He's like, your book has given me a tool, an outlet to bond with my son. And we're both doing something because I need to lose weight also. That to me is still one of the best compliments I've ever gotten. And this is an individual I didn't know. He's not in the New York City area. Yes, I train people over Skype and Zoom and so forth and FaceTime, but this is somebody I did not know who reached out to me personally. And man, did that not energize me for months. So I think it's when I start to kind of get off track, we all have lazy days, we all have days where, again, distractions come into play, but I think about those compliments and that validation that steers me right back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You seem to be really, you take advantage of public relations PR, right? Do you have any tips or tricks for fitness professionals that are listening about how to get more coverage out of the media, and how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I started, the first thing I ever did when it came to writing and trying to develop PR for myself was, there was a website called Boomer Living. And my father had just had, unfortunately, a bypass. He had a quadruple bypass, and super fit, so just for everyone to realize, you can be, not to go off course here, you can be in incredible shape. My dad still has a six pack and he's 72 and his biceps are 19 inches and his body fat is 10%. It's crazy. But lousy genetics can still hurt you. So unfortunately, he had this bypass. Our whole family was very rocked and shocked. And I reached out to a website at the time called Boomer Living, and I wanted to collaborate with them. I wanted to write an article for them about how people can rehab, post bypass surgery. And I wrote this article, I pitched it to them, they accepted it. And then from there, Facebook at the time, this is back in 2005. So Facebook at the time was still fairly new, and same thing with like all social media outlets. It wasn't like it is now. But so because I contributed, I put it on Facebook. And then I realized, one thing, certainly can lead to another. So that spawned me reaching out to other publications that do accept freelance writers, going to workshops. So one of the things I want to stress is, early on when I wanted to get, my dad showed me the basics, as I alluded to earlier, but I knew early on, like, yes, I can relate to different people's personalities through my acting background, but I need to be educated. It's so crucial. It's super important. So I got as educated as I possibly could through NASM and ISSA, but there are so many other great organizations, as we know. But I kept taking workshops, and you get familiar with different people in the industry, as you mentioned, Dan John and so forth. So give shout outs to people. I mean, certainly team up with people. If there's a younger fitness professional that they look up to, that they think is amazing. I mean, I've shared plenty of stuff with people that inspire me still. It doesn't hurt to share an article or something that inspired you. If they wrote an article, they wrote a book that's very inspirational to you, my advice is to share it on your social media platforms. You don't necessarily have to team up with somebody if you're so new and you don't necessarily have your own voice yet. But if there's somebody that inspires you, certainly share their work. If you have something to say, absolutely try to freelance somewhere. And there are plenty of publications that certainly do, whether it's over the internet or it's a hard copy. Those would be the two steps that I certainly would take early on if I was a younger fitness professional, and still as a veteran.
Awesome. Yeah, those are huge tips. Shaun, how are you, with all the different social media platforms, and I'm sure you do a lot of other things, but how are you now leveraging technology to amplify your business?
Yeah, it's hard to be a jack of all trades. So to the younger fitness professional, I mean, certainly get help. That would be my first suggestion. Secondly, I would say master one. So, I mean, I had, just like everybody else, I wanted to be on every single social media platform and kill it. It's exhausting. It's tiresome. It's what works on one social media outcome doesn't work on the other. So how you present yourself on Twitter won't obviously work on Instagram and so forth. So my suggestion would be, be the king of one. Whether if you love Instagram and you love pictures and you have some things to say, that might be your benefit. I mean, again, each platform provides something different. For me personally, I've had different success on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, I definitely used Twitter for a while, but I've sort of honestly, I haven't been as active on Twitter just because I've been trying to do more work on Instagram and Facebook personally. But I would certainly suggest getting help if that's not an option, whether it's finances or time, then concentrate on one. Absolutely concentrate on one. And if they all speak differently, and so Facebook and Instagram are great for videos. And if you're somebody who's not shy in front of the camera, and has something to say, that's great. If you're somebody who is kind of shy and maybe can talk in a few sentences, then clearly Twitter is an avenue for you. Or if you're the sharing kind, maybe your voice isn't there quite yet. But again, there are fitness professionals like Dan John and other people that you look up to. Share the work on Twitter. Certainly share it on Facebook as well. So I would say be the king of one for sure, and get help if necessary.
Yeah, that's great advice, because it's overwhelming.
It is.
So many different things.
Yeah.
I still haven't, we do digital marketing. I still haven't touched Snapchat because
Totally. Me neither. Yes.
It's, I know my nephews and nieces are on it.
Yes. Mine too. Yep.
And it's, it can be totally overwhelming because there's something coming out every day. We just talked about with somebody Nextdoor, right? Nextdoor.com.
Yeah. Right.
That's an easy one, really. If you're just, if you're listening now, you're Fit Pro, go on and at least just register your business on there and claim your business, because that could be something in 2-3 years where there's, I know people are focusing just on Nextdoor, and they're getting a lot of clients locally just from that. And I think that's great advice, because if you try to scatter it too thin, then you're just going to be ineffective at all of it. How do you see technology changing the fitness industry? Because future of fitness, that's what we're talking about. How do you see technology changing the fitness industry in the next 5 years?
I think it's a great question. I think now more than ever, online training is going to continue to be the rage. You see it plenty of times where at the beginning it was sort of, taboo on how it would even work. And if you can't cue somebody physically or you don't know somebody. But now I think with everybody's so glued to their iPhones, as we know. And I think what I read recently was the average person, if you send a text message to somebody, the average person reads it within 5 minutes. That's the average. So I certainly believe it. I know personally for my business, I've seen an influx of online training. I think what happens is because we're so socially media connected now, you can live in Minnesota and you could have a trainer in Philadelphia and it just works. So I think between that and apps for sure, I mean, I think for a while apps were dead. Now apps are sort of coming back. People need, I think in the long run, for somebody who hasn't worked with a personal trainer, they want to be told what to do. And I say them in a healthy way, of course. They want to be guided. And now more than ever, it doesn't have to be physical anymore. You can reach anybody anywhere. I know I've had people reach out to me in Japan and China before about training, which is awesome. So, getting past the time difference and the time change, I'm certainly not opposed to it and honored to do it. So I think online training is absolutely going to take over more than ever. And I think apps will certainly make a comeback, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had I'm noticing trends, right?
Yes.
First of all, people successful in the fitness business, many of them have written books.
Yes.
So try to come up with your book. I just don't know what I'm going to do.
You got it.
The other thing,
great. That's what you could call it.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think there's certain professions that are certain aspects of fitness that I was just talking to Coach Bob Tucano that don't work well remotely. Right?
Yes.
It's hard to teach Olympic weightlifting. You can. It's done. People do it all the time.
Sure.
But be able to touch and cue and do things like that.
Yeah.
There's other things that are, if you're doing online nutrition coaching or, if the people you're dealing with are fairly basic in the type of movements that you are constructing for them in the programs, highly effective. So there's certain areas you have to look at what you're doing, but the online is, if you want to get your voice out and be infinitely scalable in your business, holy cow, it's a huge world of opportunity out there. And that's what we're seeing, especially with the clients that we help now, is, scaling them seemingly infinitely. And it's a huge opportunity. And there's so many different tools to leverage that technology. I mean, between, Fitbot is one where you can do online programming that we had on here. There's a ton of different tools. So I would tell people, really start investigating what it is that, who in your specific niche of fitness is doing online, and then find out exactly how they're doing it.
And that's great advice.
Call them up and be like, coach me. So Shaun, where do you see Zetlin Fitness in the next 2 years? And then do you have a plan on how you want to get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think for me right now, I'm writing another book. So I'm almost in the queues of trying to writing two at the same time, which is kind of exhausting and also empowering. So I do want to do another push-up series. I did a push-up challenge with Health Magazine 2 years ago that I'm so proud to say reached thousands of people, and it was just so successful. So now I'm sort of in this whole challenge. I think challenges are such a great thing for people. I think it sets a goal. I think it sets a very, very small goal for people where it's not a long-term goal. It's a doable goal. So one of the books that I'm writing is basically a set of challenges, which I think will be very great. I'm very excited about that. And then I've written books about child obesity. I'm going back to that, and then also working with people who stand a lot. So basically like trying to help people who their jobs are not necessarily manual labor, but people who stand consistently, people who have lower back problems. There are plenty of jobs where people just stand all day and don't have the proper core strength. So anyway, those three things are in the mix right now, which I'm very excited about. And to be honest with you, reaching the largest audience I can through mental wellness, super passionate about that, like I kept saying in this interview. So I think between those two things, and I had written a children's book last year that was about child obesity, which I'm very, very excited about. So between child obesity, push-up challenges, helping people who stand with their jobs, and that's sort of a basic premise, but I'm very excited about that. And emotional fitness, so tying that all together. So sort of a lot on my plate, which I'm very excited about. And then just so honored to train the clients that I personally train and to train the personal trainers that I train through NASM and ISSA. So there's a lot going on, but I'm very excited about all of it. So trying to balance everything as much as possible.
That's awesome. You are definitely doing the work. There's no doubt. And they say that we've heard it 1,000 times, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that comes across very authentically with you. And I appreciate
that.
feel that almost immediately. So
thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Shaun, thanks for coming on, man. This is really a great talk. And how do people get a hold of you, by the way?
Sure, man. So it's very easy. They can go to my website, Zetlin Fitness. I'll just spell it out, Zetlin, fitness.com. And then on Facebook and Instagram and even Twitter, it's all Zetlin Fitness. So nice and neat. And then if they want to email me, it's info@zetlinfitness.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shaun.
I'm sure we'll be in touch.
And we'll probably have you out again, I would imagine.
Man, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Future of Fitness podcast and webinar series. We're working really hard here to keep great content coming out, and we'd like to express our gratitude by offering you a free 7-day marketing crash course. So here's how you can claim it. If you go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/free gift, FREEGIFT, and you enter the promo code FITMARK, FITMARK, you can claim it that way. The other way is you can text us. So you can text the phone number 805-619-5550, and you text the word FITMARK, FITMARK. So thank you. Keep listening. Go claim that offer. It's a ton of value. And if you ever want to get a hold of me, or if you have suggestions for guests, topics, or anything else, or if you just want to ask me questions, I always respond. You can reach me at Eric, ERIC, at fitnessmarketingalliance.com. And keep listening. We have a lot more coming down the pipe, and we'll make sure that we're keeping the value great for you guys. And farewell till next time.